So first, I want to just thank a lot of the collaborators on this project, which was to adapt an online tool that we developed actually originally for vegetables to other crops. And this project was funded by the federal government and the state government to adapt it to wine grapes. And the objective really is to develop an online tool that can support growers in making quick decisions on how much water to apply to their crop and also for nutrient management. And I'll just say that, you know, because of time limits today, I'm going to probably emphasize mostly the part of the application that is for decisions on irrigation. But we're also very interested in good nitrogen management in our area. The way we see it is, you know, water and nitrogen, they have to be managed together. If you want to manage nitrogen fertilizer really well, you have to manage water, because in the form of nitrate, it leaches very easily. And in our region, we have issues because we have so much vegetable production of leaching of nitrate, and we have nitrate contaminated groundwater. So there's a lot of reasons that we want to improve our water management and our nutrient management. But I always point out to farmers and growers when I do my extension work, the most important is you want to get your best yield, your best quality. But we have these water quality regulations also that are being implemented due to contamination in the groundwater as well as in the surface water. We have pesticides that get into our surface water supplies, and then, as I mentioned, nitrate is a big deal in the groundwater. And then we have some new laws on groundwater use, so we have limits on how much that we're going to be able to extract for use in agriculture in the future. And many of the buyers of our products, they want sustainability metrics about water use. And so if you don't have records on how you're actually managing water, you really can't provide quantitative metrics on water use. So in irrigation management for vineyards and many of our crops, we really have these three approaches to deciding how to schedule the irrigations. Some are based on understanding the weather conditions. We call it evapotranspiration-based scheduling. We have other decisions we can make based on looking at the plant, looking at stem water or leaf water potential of the plant, and then soil-based methods, monitoring soil moisture. Now, optimally, you would use a combination of all of these. I would say the strength of the soil-based and the plant-based is really telling you when is an optimal time to irrigate. But they are pretty labor-intensive methods. Someone has to be in the field, or you have to put equipment out there to do monitoring. The ET-based, evapotranspiration-based, using weather data, that can be applied pretty inexpensively to many different blocks, many different fields. And one of its strengths is it really helps you decide how much water or how long to irrigate. So it is also, you know, good to have a method that tells you when to irrigate, and also use another method that helps you figure out exactly how long to irrigate. But using weather-based methods is a little complicated, and one of the issues is we get evapotranspiration data. It's a reference number based on well-watered grass, if the weather station is set up correctly. and we have to adjust that number based on a crop coefficient. And then in vineyards, that crop coefficient might be adjusted for implementing some deficit or water stress to the crop to optimize the quality of the grapes. And so figuring out these crop coefficients is a little complicated, and when I've interviewed growers, they're not quite sure what's the right crop coefficient to use. And so having good models of that is very important to make that work. But even though you can figure out the crop ET, or estimate the crop ET, there are steps for getting from there to how long to irrigate. So first you have to sum up what your ET was since the last time you irrigate. You need to make adjustments for the uniformity of your irrigation system, how uniform it applies. And then you might add a leaching fraction if you have salinity, and you make adjustments for the stage of the crop. And then you have to convert it into hours to run your irrigation system based on the application rate of the system. So another complication is a lot of growers that are managing a lot of different irrigation blocks, or the farm managers managing a lot of different irrigation blocks. And so they have a lot of other activities to do. So they also have to coordinate a lot of their irrigations with other activities like spraying, cultivation, and doing all these calculations, on crop ET is time consuming, and they don't have time to do it. So that was the rationale, is why don't we just let a computer do this, right? And we developed this tool that's online. It's just a web-based tool, so you just use a browser to access it, called CropManage. And it's for making decisions, helping growers make decisions on water management as well as nutrient management, and keep records of what they're doing. So what CropManage does is makes those recommendations very specific for your conditions. So I'll explain a little bit more, but the idea is for your type of soil, your climate, what you're growing, and the stage of development, we try to get those recommendations really, I would say, adapted for your conditions. And the algorithms that we use in the software are based on all the research the university has been doing over many years. And so that's one of the things, is we do a lot of research, and we give seminars on our results, but we don't have necessarily a way to translate it into a tool that you can tailor for your conditions. So this is one way we can do this. And another benefit is that if you're using this tool for each of your blocks, you're maintaining records on how much water, or which fertilizers you use, and you can look back on what you've done from season to season. You can use those and download those records if you have to comply with some of these regulations like we have in California. So at the heart of CropManage is a database that's online, and it's in the cloud. It's hosted by Amazon Web Service, and this database holds information that the growers put in. And it's very specific, for their farm. So you develop a specific ranch or farm on CropManage using the tools to get soil maps, to import in there information about each of your fields or your blocks that you irrigate. And then you associate it with a weather station that's online. And then as you use CropManage through the season, you can enter test results. We can associate it with soil moisture sensors or flow meters in the field. So all this can be held in the database, And that allows you to see, how you've set up your farm. But what's really unique about it, I think, is we have these models that give recommendations on how much fertilizer to apply for your specific conditions or how long to irrigate. And as I mentioned, you also have records that you can always take a look at, export out of it. So a little background about CropManage. We started it in 2011, and as I mentioned before, it was for vegetables. Currently, we have over 4,000 registered users. It's completely free to use, so you can look at it if you are interested. And for the last 8 or 10 years, we've been doing field trials. So that's another unique thing, is a lot of people develop these web applications, but they don't actually test whether they're working accurately. So we've done many studies with different commodities that are on CropManage to check that the algorithms are accurate. And you use a web browser to access it. There's nothing to download and put on your computer. It works on a smartphone or a tablet computer out in the field. And then we've really taken all the steps to have good privacy, so nobody can look at the data you put on CropManage. It's all your data. You decide who has access to that data. So privacy was something we were very interested in doing early on. And then we've recently adapted it in the last 5 or 6 years for perennial crops, including grapes. So some of the crops that it's compatible with is many of the vegetable crops that we grow, because I'm in the Salinas Valley and we are what we call the salad bowl capital of the United States. So that was our first priority. And we also produce a lot of berry crops like strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. So it's adapted for that. And then we moved into the Central Valley of California, working with some of the perennial tree crops like almonds and pistachios, and more recently, again, into vineyards. So CropManage will automatically pull in weather data from these ET stations, and we have the CIMIS network throughout California, and we have 150 stations. So a grower just associates which stations they're interested in. We also have a gridded map of ET through spatial CIMIS that they can choose. And we can also estimate future ET based on historical data. And we are trying to associate CropManage with a product called OpenET. It's a satellite-based tool that can bring in ET, and that's going to have forecasted ET in it. So to adapt CropManage for vineyards, we needed to work on developing a nitrogen recommendation model. Also, for the water model for irrigation, we needed to think about regulated deficit irrigation and have that as a tool in the model that growers can make adjustments based on their goal in terms of quality. And also, and something else important for growers is estimating how much soil moisture they have in the springtime in California, so they can decide when they should start irrigating, when should be the first irrigation. So we started thinking about all this. And so the way the model works is the crop coefficient is based on fractional cover of the canopy, and then we develop that into a crop coefficient. We use reference ET and a deficit factor to come up with a sum of the total ET since your last irrigation, and then develop that into a runtime. And we subtract off for any precipitation that might occur. This just shows you how you can plan your deficit plan through the season. What percentage of ET do you really want to apply? Is it going to be full crop ET, or do you want to start stressing early on? So you set that up, and that will be figured into the recommendation. So that, and that can be adjusted anytime. And this is just an example of how it looks when you're using it. You put in the date you would like to irrigate. And also notice, CropManage is in Spanish, so you can just switch language between English and Spanish. And the method you're going to irrigate, you just put that in, and this is after you've set up your farm, your ranch, your crop type. And then it will instantly give you a recommendation. So down here it shows 7 hours, and it also tells you how much deficit you're putting on. You can adjust that. You can see a little summary of the recommendation, how it came up with it at any point to make sure it makes sense. Because it's web-based, we can bring in other tools into CropManage, and so one of them is SIMS. It's a satellite irrigation management support that gives us estimates of canopy cover using the Landsat satellites. So this is just an image of that, of lots of different fields. But for your specific field, you get those black symbols there are estimates of canopy cover. And as you can see, the blue line is our model of how the canopy develops. And you can see that the estimates from the satellite can be quite accurate. Now we, again, wanted to check how accurate CropManage is, and so we had a number of different sites where we compared the CropManage model of ET with ground truth methods such as eddy covariance, and also compared it with open ET. And so here are some of the sites where we used the eddy covariance systems to measure evapotranspiration. And this is cumulative through the season of what the ET estimates were. The blue is the CropManage estimate, the green is satellite, and the red line is the eddy covariance. And generally, we got very good similarities between these different methods. Sometimes one was higher than the others. You could see the satellite and this one is a bit higher. But generally, it's been pretty good. The other way we can check it is we put flow meters on the vineyard and soil moisture sensors, and this will all go into CropManage. And so this is an example of a field we're working with a grower right now, soil moisture sensors. And what you can see is after March, the soil is drying down. And then about July, things are increasing in soil moisture. And this is down to about 1 meter depth, a little over 1 meter depth. And when we look at the recommended and applied water, and in CropManage we have visualization tools like this, so you can see what was applied versus cumulatively what was recommended. And we see early on he didn't irrigate as much as recommended, and that's why the soil was drying out. But later on in June, July, they start irrigating more to keep up with the recommendation, and that's why you see the soil moisture going up. And we have a visualization of what we estimate we call the soil water balance. And so this is just showing all the black lines are there represent rainfall events all the way back into our winter months. And so we can estimate how much soil moisture Is that a little better? Yep. So it estimates how much soil moisture we have in the beginning of the season. And this is to help growers make decisions on when to start irrigating, because they want to dry down the soil so they slow down the vigor of the vines. And you can see this is the same vineyard that the soil moisture, which is the blue line, starts dropping down in June, and then he's keeping it at this level above this orange line, which is sort of the stress level that they're shooting for. So these visualization tools help growers make decisions on what's the right way to irrigate their vines. So that's minimal stress there. So a question you may have is, okay, you got this tool, can we use it in Chile? And it is online, and it is free to use. What you need is to be associated with evapotranspiration data. But I understand you have a network of weather stations, and if you have those weather stations online in a system like we call them APIs, so it can be accessible from machine to machine, it is possible to make it work in this situation. But there's always the possibility manually you can add ET data into CropManage. So, you know, I think it is possible to use it, but to adopt it for how you grow your vines here, your grapes here, usually you're going to have a researcher that's very involved in adapting it and look at the canopy cover and test it with growers here. So I think there's lots of possibilities, you know, for further collaboration if there's interest in it. So just to conclude, I would say, you know, CropManage really was designed for the end user, which is the irrigator, and help support farm managers in making good decisions on water management and nutrient management. And, you know, these recommendations are based on algorithms from our research. And so I think it's very important, you know, when we do our research in the university, we have an outlet and a good extension tool that can be adopted for the site-specific conditions that growers are dealing with. And we're going to continue working on adopting CropManage and testing it in vineyards. This season we're doing it. We're going to continue up in the next year too. And you know, it's evolved over the years, and it's really based on a community of people working together to keep improving it. And I do want to emphasize, I'm not the only one working on CropManage. We get a lot of help on it. So with that, thank you very much for your attention.